Rojas from the Chatham News and Record and Coach John Berry he's just from all around Chatham County. Here's a rundown of our agenda for today's NC Sports Roundup. Asheebo's going to touch on last week's scores. He's going to talk about the articles he's got in the Chatham News and Record paper that came out today. This Athlete of the Week. Also, he's going to talk about the state wrestling tournament. Two of our teams made it into that. One of them is still going, and then we're going to get into everybody's favorite part, the power ranking. So let me go ahead and get this out of the way so that we can see all our smiling faces. Gene Galin here, Asheebo Rojas there, and the next person over is John Berry. I don't know why this order ever happens this way. Sometimes I'm in the middle, sometimes I'm at the end. It doesn't matter. We're here. The two important guys are John Berry and Asheebo because they are going to be talking a whole bunch of basketball. But we're going to start off with Asheebo and what's going on in the Chatham News and Record. Asheebo.
Yeah, so this week, what we had coming out was we had a story from Drake Powell making the McDonald's All-American game and being selected as a McDonald's All-American. We also have, of course, our sports roundup for the week. And then as far as the game story, we had we had the wrestling duels for the first round from Seaforth's wins over Bartley Yancey and Aiden Grifton there at home on Saturday. And then we also had some basketball stories coming out with Seaforth and Southeast Alamance, the girls' game, which is a big game in the conference standings between the first and second place at the time. Now second place is Northwood, but a big game that went on there at Seaforth. So plenty of things going on in Chatham County last week. Plenty of things in Chatham County going on this week. This week we'll have basketball story. I was at Chatham Central and Seaforth last night, but Chatham Central will also play JM on Monday. And then on Friday, we have Seaforth and Northwood battling it out for first place on the girls' side in the Mid-Carolina 1A, 2A conference. So I will be there as well. And tonight, I will be at Bunn to watch Seaforth wrestling. They go on and wrestle Bunn tonight they have Southwest Onslow tonight in the third round. And then if they win that one, they'll advance to the fourth round also tonight. And if they win that, they will make it to states on Saturday. So that's what's going on this week and a little bit of what happened last week in Chatham County. And also, too, Gene, is okay if we want to go ahead and do the roundup? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go in through some of the scores from last week and a little bit of basketball scores from last night. So as well as what went on in other sports last week in Chatham County. Last week we had swimming. They had the boys and girls Mid-Carolina 1A, 2A conference meet on the 24th. And in that one, Seaforth's boys and girls won both sides for the third consecutive year. And they had plenty of individual conference winners across the county. We had Charlie Howard, Jade Brown, Sydney Burley, and Sydney Air. Their relay team won the girls 200 medley relay. On the boys 200 meters medley relay side. Seaforth also had another team win that one. Also some individuals from other schools. Jesse Escalin, Chatham Central won the boys 100 meters freestyle with a time of 57 seconds. And yeah, it was plenty of Seaforth and Northwood at the county swimming meet. But Jesse Escalin also won the boys 50 meters freestyle with a time of 25 seconds. And then the indoor track, we had the Saturday's East Chapel Hill meet number 5, and in that one, plenty of top 10 finishers from Chatham County and first place finishers as well. We had Lucas Smith finishing first in the boys 500-meter dash with a time of 1 minute and 4 seconds. He also finished third in the boys 300 meters dash with a time of 35 seconds. And also, too, we had on the girls' side, we had Anna Peeler finishing third in the girls 1,000 meters run. And we had a couple of other top 10 finishers on the girls' side as well, and plenty of events at the East Chapel Hill meet. So just some other things going on outside of basketball and, of course, wrestling in those dual state playoffs. We also had Northwood, number 13. They lost to Southwest Onslow 60-21. So we will see Seaforth, like I said, tonight in the third and fourth rounds, hopefully trying to get their first state bid for the wrestling state championship.
Now, before we started the roundup, one of the things you and I are talking about is they are the top seed, but they're at one. And I think you mentioned the possible reason for that is what again?
Yeah, I don't. I'm not entirely too sure of what the exact reason is. From what I see, it looks like that's kind of where the middle is for all the four teams participating in the third regional finals here tonight. We have a lot of teams from East North Carolina, Monteo, Southwest Onslow. I mean, no, Southwest Onslow, Bunn, Washington, coming to face Seaforth. So Seaforth will have to travel to Bunn tonight.
Yeah, and if most people look it up in Chatham County, that's about a little bit over an hour going east. So, hey, if you want to see some good wrestling, go on out there. All right, Asheebo, what's up next?
Yeah, we can run through some of the boys basketball scores from last week and last night. So starting off with last week on the boys basketball side, Northwood, they went undefeated during the week. They beat Southeast Alamance on January 23rd, 74-36, and Jordan Matthews 66-37 that Friday. And then Seaforth, they start the week with a 72-61 win over Graham on the 23rd. But they ended the week suffering back-to-back losses to Southeast Alamance 52-70 and Cummings 67-80. And then Jordan Matthews, they start the week with a 74-70 win over Graham. And right here, I kind of want to go ahead and highlight my athlete of the week, who is Brendan Oldham. And for the reasons he earned athlete of the week is because he scored his 1,000-point and against Graham on his way to scoring a career high 26 points in that game. So great game for him, and congrats on reaching that accomplishment as a junior, which is something that's really rare here in high school basketball. I think we've seen three juniors. We've seen Gabby White do it earlier this year. Rhea Albright did it a couple weeks ago, and junior Brendan Oldham did it last week. So congrats on him for joining that rare group of juniors that reached that milestone. And then Chatham Central, they won their only game of the week. They beat Bartley Yancey 74-55. And that one, Albright, once again, just absolute scoring machine this year. He had 35 points and 11 rebounds in that one. And then Chatham Charter, they continued to pick up two big wins there, beating Ascend Leadership 53-17 on the 23rd, and Triangle Math and Science 60-39 on the 24th. And Woods Charter, they lost to Southern Wake Academy 21-64 on January 23rd. But they did win against River Mill on that Friday, 50-46. And last night, we had Chatham Central beating Seaforth 80-67. We had Northwood winning over Bartley Yancey 84-23. Jordan Matthews beat Northmore 44-36. And Chatham Charter won the showdown with Woods Charter 66-55 to get the season sweep there. Which leads me into the boys basketball power rankings. Looking at some of the scores from last week, a little bit of last night too as well. At number 1, I got Northwood. Number 2, I got Chatham Central. At 3, I got Jordan Matthews. 4, Chatham Charter. 5, Seaforth, and 6, Woods Charter. And now, as we're getting down to the final stretch here in conference play and the end of the regular season, Northwood and Chatham Central 1 and 2, I feel like as locks here as the season comes down to a close. But that 3 through 6 is actually kind of getting closer, especially with Woods Charter picking up some wins. Chatham Charter starting to pick up some steam there in the conference play as well. Seaforth has fallen a little bit in the past couple of weeks. I think they're on a 3-game losing streak now after last night. So got to reward Chatham Charter for continuing to win. Jordan Matthews, even though a lot of the games have been close, they've also continued to win here in the past couple of weeks. So, Coach Barry, what do you think of the boys' power rankings here so far today?
Yeah, I would have to agree with you with one caveat. I actually believe that those middle teams, they're physically about the same, athletic wise, speed wise, girth, height. It just comes down to execution. And on any given day, I think any of those teams can potentially beat the other team. When you start looking at Chatham Central, Jordan Matthews, definitely Seaforth High School, I think they're kind of interchangeable. I just think that when those teams played, they just execute a little bit better than maybe some of the other teams, when they play. For instance, last night, Chatham Central played Seaforth, and I think that's a very evenly matched type game. I mean, I think if you look at the players, physically, they're exactly the same. In fact, it was a nip and tuck game all the way to the end. But at the end of the day, it came down to late game execution, and ultimately, Chatham Central did that a little bit better than Seaforth last night, as well as in the first game. My only issue that I would have with what's going on here is before I put Chatham Charter ahead of Seaforth, I would like to see them play. Now, on paper, given that they've won games and they have a better record and they seem to be on an upward trajectory, I've always said styles make fights. And I just think the speed, the physicality, and also the maturity of some of those Seaforth players, I think that could be a challenge for Chatham Charter. We'll never know because they're not going to play. But that's the one game in particular that I think Seaford may have a slight edge when they actually get on the court. But nevertheless, if we just base it off of the numbers, I understand where you're coming from, and I can see exactly why you would do what you did. But other than that, Asheebo, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and yeah, it's not that Seaforth is really a bad team. We saw that last night. They went, like you said, toe to toe with Chatham Central for 3 quarters. I think they were only down 3 at the end of the third quarter there. And Nate Emerson really stepped up and really kept them in the game. He had 27 in that one and made a lot of threes for them and big plays. I just think, the late game execution like we saw, and kind of the last couple of games, it just really hurt them at the end where teams, pull away. They get out of transition, they get those, they start driving in and get those fouls and ones on Seaforth that really hurts them. And some plays that really hurt Seaforth at the end there, same thing happened with Reed getting in for an and one, Devontae also getting in for an and one, and also just loose balls that they weren't getting that Chatham Central were on the offensive rebounds, really hurt them there. But, down the stretch, we look at the RPI. I think Seaforth is the number 38 team in RPI as of today. So they won't be an automatic bid, of course, not the 1 or 2 in the conference. But, if they can pick up some wins and, kind of help themselves out by control their own destiny and worry about what they have in front of them, they could make a push and be, one of a low seed in the playoffs.
Well, listen, I love everything about that Seaforth men's basketball team. They have players for sure, especially when you go from 1 to, let's say, 8. Like I said before, it's just going to come down to execution and minimize the mistakes, make the shot you're supposed to make. But the biggest thing that I think they can do is this. Listen, they're scoring 67 points a game. If we can just, or if C4 can just stop the other team from scoring as many points, I think that by itself is going to convert them to win some of these games, particularly these high scoring games. I think if it's hard to win games consistently if the other team is scoring 65, 75, 80 points. I don't care who you are. So if Seaforth was able to kind of like work on that part of it and just stop the other team from scoring as much, then I think that alone would put them in an advantageous position. And I think they're going to have a little bit more success. But I love everything about those guys. I know those guys are working hard. They're staying focused. And that's all you can ask for. And for that, I think everyone should be proud of them because they never gave up. They never give up. And they constantly are pushing forward, trying to do what's best for the team.
Yeah. And also down the stretch, looking at some where Chatham County's teams are, especially on the 2A East level here in the playoff picture. We got Jordan Matthews at number 33 in RPI today. Another team that's not going to be an automatic bid, but could play themselves in there as a low seed. When you look at Jordan Matthews and Seaforth, what do you see from them that makes you think, okay, maybe they could make a playoff push, or what would it take for them to get over that hump and get in?
At the end of the day, I think when the conference tournament happens, one of those teams are going to have to beat a team above them. So Jordan Matthews is going to have to beat, let's say, a Cummings, or they're going to have to beat a Chatham Central. Same thing with Seaforth. They're going to have to beat somebody ahead of them. And if they do that, then the powers to be may slot them into the top, let's say 32, then they can play. Here's the problem though. If you are in, let's say, within that 32, 29, 30, 31, 32, guess who's waiting for you at the other side? Farmville Central, Northwood, in their gym. So yes, you may end up making it, but the challenge for those teams is, yes, it may be short-lived because you got to play the top team in the state, well-oiled machine, have the players, have many college prospects that's going to be going to college, and you know it gets real tricky there. So at the end of the day, what I would suggest is this: for those teams, listen, we have about a month and a half left of the season. You know what? Go to practice, work hard, do everything you can humanly to put your team into a position where you can succeed. And when you go out there and play it like Allen Iverson used to say, play it like it's your last game. Play it like it's your last game. And I told one player recently, be the CEO of yourself. You have a set of responsibilities. Know those responsibilities well. And when it's time to go out there to perform it, do it to the point where it's like overkill. You 110%, and you just be the best you can be. And then you just let the chips fall where they fall. And I think that's where it's at right now. You can't do anything right now about the rankings other than go out there and just play your tail off. Hopefully the powers to be get you in the top 32. You go out there and even if you have to play a Farmville Central who's ranked number 1, or Northwood, who's right now ranked number 2, you know what? It doesn't matter who you play. The only thing that matters is what you do and how you play and the effort that you give. And as long as you can do that, you know what? You can hold your head really, really high because the community will be proud of you.
Yeah, and look at the teams at the top there on the 2A East side. I saw that Northwood is number 4 in RPI as of this morning. On the 2A side, and on the 1A East side, Chatham Central is number 7. Northwood, we know they can make a deep run. It's just a matter of playing the teams at the top. And when we see from Northwood against teams like that this year, they've competed and they've even won some of those games. Now some games they've had weaknesses exposed as well. This deep into the season, now teams are there. We kind of know what teams are going to bring, right? Coming into the playoffs.
Now, listen, Northwood is the one that's positioned to do the damage. Mm-hmm. The other sleeper is going to be Chatham Central because they're 1A. And if you look at Chatham Central, they plan all of these 2A teams, getting used to playing these schools with much bigger populations, bigger, faster players, and they're playing these teams. So now when you drop them to 1A, especially with the ranking and the seeding that they currently have, they could be a surprise. They can easily go 2, 3, 4 deep. So keep your eye on Chatham Central because they're 1A. But I think from a 2A standpoint, I think Northwood is positioned to definitely make a deep run. I mean, if you look at the teams that they've been playing, going all the way back to that tournament, I believe it was in Utah or Denver or wherever it was, they played 2 state champion teams back to back. They beat one, they lost to the second one the second day. If you come back and you look at the Christmas tournament, they played Reedsville, which is another upper echelon team. And although they fell short, they learned some valuable lessons. And then they came back and played the number 1 rated team in the state, which is Myers Park. And you know what? They were there for a minute. And they just kind of ran away with it a little bit. But here's the thing that I noticed about Northwood. With each one of those games, Coach Brown has made slight tweaks, slight adjustments, got better because of it. And I think because of those experiences with those upper echelon teams, I think Northwood is, when they run across these types of games in the future, they're going to be better suited to see success on the other side. You got guys like Cam Fowler. You have guys like Whitaker. You have Jake Link coming off the bench. You have Bo Harvey. These guys have experience. And the one thing that I noticed, because I was at the Northwood Southeast Alamance game, they are moving the ball really, 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 really well. I was talking with Coach Berg, varsity head coach, Seaford girls. And one of the things that we talk about is this: on defense, you want to be stout, make sure everybody understands their responsibility, and they do it with perfection. And they force teams to really, really work in order to score. Because most teams, they get on offense, they want to score in the first pass or two. So if your defense is set up in a way where you're never going to have anything in those first couple of passes and you making them work, then you're going to be able to, you as a defensive team is going to have the advantage. And on the flip side, on offense, if you can move the ball 10, 15, 20, 30, 45 seconds each time that you're on offense, chances are you'll break the defense down and you'll get anything you want. And if, as a coach, if you can do one of those two things, then you setting yourself up to be successful. Northwood is doing this at a very high level. They're moving the ball around, making the defense look silly, and they're getting layups, open threes, dribble drive kicks, and that's what's going to make them dangerous, because Coach Brown has got these guys believing in this, led by the great Drake Powell.
Yeah, and I went back and did watch some of the Northwood and Jordan Matthews game, and one thing I always noticed about Coach Brown this year too that's really interesting is that he's hard on his team throughout the entire game, and no matter who they're playing, if he doesn't like what he see, he's gonna call a timeout. He's gonna get them together. I think the standard with Northwood is really high this year, like it usually always is, but really this year. And I feel like you say, that hunger and drive, they just play faster than everybody that we've seen here in the conference. I think that really, and also too, on top of the preparation they had playing those really good teams, I think that will really just help them in the state playoffs and make a deep run.
I want to add something about Coach Brown, what you said about him telling the teams to play hard. I sneak in there every once in a while to get a picture of the huddle there. And there have been numerous times where I've heard him in the game. He also reminds his players to have fun. And I think when you're winning, you're more prone to have fun. But he actually tells his players, let's go out there, let's execute, and let's have fun. And I think you see that. Let me also jump to Chatham Central, because you folks have talked a lot about them being the 1A and they're playing hard competition. Reed Albright had a really nice night last night. I think he had 27 points. How's he fit into Chatham Central's game plan going into, the tournament? And I also want to tell Asheebo and Coach Berry, moms love this show. I've gotten several players' moms say they appreciate what you guys do about talking about the kids. So if you want to throw their names, individual names in every once in a while, that puts a smile on the moms' names. So I know we've got the players' moms watching us. But going back, what's your take on Reed and Chatham Central, right, and going into the tournament?
So real quick here, I got a chance to talk to Devontae Johnson's mom last night when I showed up at Chatham Central, and she was like, "Yeah, I'll be watching the show every week, and man, I really appreciate what you guys are doing." And I said, "Yeah, we really love your son, Devontae. He's a hard worker. He's one of the engines that make the whole thing go. He pushes the ball, he plays defense, he can shoot, he can drive. In fact, he had a really big and one late in the game where he kind of was flexing. He was just super, super hype. Love that guy. Love everything about Devontae Johnson." Now, to answer your question about Reed Albright, that guy is a killer. And the reason why I say that is because he can beat you in a lot of ways. He can shoot the three. He can go downhill with the drive and make shots going toward the rim. He can also post you up. Last night, when Seaford was playing him, they were running different bodies at him, and everyone was sort of like loading up on him, on Seaford's defense, to try to stop him. And what he was trying to do, and was successful a fair amount of the time, was he was going to the block, getting the ball, playing big boy ball as a guard, and he was very, very effective at it. So going into the state tournament, I think the story is this: wherever Coach Burt, the head coach for Chatham Central, and Reed Albright believes is the weakness of the defense, they can reposition Reed Albright and put him in that spot, and he can still be effective, whether it's shooting three, whether it's posting somebody up, or whether it's off the bounce going downhill toward the basket. That's why I think in the state playoffs, he's going to be a big factor, because it doesn't matter what the teams do. he has a way of still being able to get his offense going to make sure that his team scores the requisite amount of points. So Reed Albright, I think he's a straight killer. I think the kid is great. He's got to be one of the best that ever played over at Chatham Central, from what I can see.
And Asheebo, you had Reed as your athlete of the week. It was last week or the week before?
It was actually earlier in the season that he was athlete of the week. But yeah, Reed, he just like Coach Berry said last night, he really found different ways to still get his offense going, because Seaford made it. They made it clear. I think they started double teaming him in the first quarter. The first in the double teams, and that did cause some disruptions, and it kind of forced Chatham Central to kind of play outside of Reed. But once they made an adjustment, hey, let's put Reed on the block. Let's have him post up and get to the basket that way. And once he got going, all that kind of went away. And then they tried to face guard Reed with different bodies, like Coach Berry said. And the thing about him is he's just kind of unafraid, and he kind of he's never in a situation where I feel like he doesn't know what to do with the ball. Even when he gets it, when he has a double team coming, he knows exactly where it's going next, and then he knows where to cut next. He knows where to post up, and he knows where to get to his spots, which when I talk to him, that's like the biggest thing, is getting to his spots, and also that first step on the drive. And when he's not afraid to go up against big bodies in the paint, though, he's going to get fouled. And we saw last night the majority of his points actually came from the free throw line. Like, Reed didn't do a lot of straight shooting and hitting threes like we usually see him. It was a lot of driving to the basket, getting fouled, getting to the line, making those free throws. And that, I think, is what that really helped Chatham Central pull away at the end. Of course, we also learned and saw that Devontae Johnson can really play off of Reed as well and get to his spot, especially in transition. With Devontae in transition, he's really good at pushing the ball, getting in front of everybody, and finishing at the rim too, like we saw last night. And then they just also have other guys around him, like Luke Gaines, who can shoot the three and also drive. Aiden Johnson, who's a really good rebounder, and can put up some second chance opportunities at the rim. They play as a team. They know their roles, and they're really good at doing what they're good at. From what I see,
100%, man. That team is. Listen, they are a very skilled, fast team with chemistry. They all know their roles. Aiden Johnson, rim protector. He's going side to side, getting rebounds, playing hard, down for loose balls. You got Luke Gaines, like you said, he's knocking threes down. That team is great because they play super well as a team. The chemistry is at an all-time high. They have skilled players. You can't overwhelm them because they know how to space the floor. They can move the ball. They can dribble. They can shoot. And it's very, very tough to beat a team like that, especially if they can hit their shots. You can't overwhelm them. I remember even Northwood playing them. They jumped on them with that full court man-to-man defense, and they were still able to get the ball up the court, move the ball 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 60 seconds. In fact, one possession, they had the ball for like 2 minutes plus. They just couldn't score on Northwood because Northwood is just that good defensively. But the point is, they just couldn't overwhelm them and take the ball and get score after score after score. Northwood ran away from Chatham Central just because Chatham Central couldn't score against Northwood's defense, and eventually Northwood just ran away from them. That's why I say when it gets to the state tournament, that's a team that is a major sleeper.
Let me toss out another one. Brennan from Jordan Matthews. He scored his 1,000 point, I think, at Graham. And if you go to Facebook at the Jordan Matthews Booster Club, actually has a video clip of him scoring his 1,000 points. So if somebody's interested, you can go out to Facebook and find that clip. And the other nice thing, and I think maybe you gentlemen have noticed that too, is when Chatham County schools play each other, there's a different kind of vibe. Because Brennan's mom actually texted me. She said, did I get a picture with him and a couple of the Northwood players? Because after that game, usually if it's two non-county schools, they kind of go their separate ways. But after that game, the players are hanging, talking with each other. Because as Coach Berry, you've been in the county long enough. A lot of those players have played together in rec league, middle school, now playing in high school and AAU teams. So they know each other and their families know each other. So I enjoyed attending two Chatham County schools when they're playing against each other in a basketball game. Your gentleman's take on that?
Oh yeah, it makes a really cool environment too. Like last night, Coach Barry, we were at Chatham Central. When the game was going back and forth, both crowds just going back and forth with the boos and the cheers. It got loud, it got rowdy. So it makes for a really fun environment. But even like you said, the kids know each other, the parents know each other. So even I'm sitting on the Seaford side doing the stats, and I'm hearing people like, "Oh yeah, we're here to see Reed too." Not just here to see Seaford. So even with the competition, there's some camaraderie with the community, which is always makes it a really fun environment.
100%. I've even heard parents tell me, yes, we're neighbors with, a couple of players from Chatham Central. They played, against each other for years in the Chatham Rec, basketball system. That's just the way it is. This week coming up on Friday, the Seaforth hosts Northwood Friday night. It's going to be a quad game, which means the JV boys and girls, the varsity boys and girls, they're going to all play. It's going to be sold out. So listen, guys, if you want to see the true essence of Chatham County basketball, don't miss the quad games on Friday this week at Seaford High School when Seaforth hosts Northwood. Going right back to what Gene was talking about.
Yeah, and I want to add to that. I already talked to the athletic director, Jason Amy. We will be putting up a GoPro on the backboard for the varsity games. Not going to do it for the JV games, but we'll do it for the varsity girls and boys games. So we're going to get a slightly different angle. I've done it before at Northwood. Their backboard is just not very good. They don't get good. They need to replace their backboards, but the boards at Seaforth are, they're only 3 years old, so we get some good angles from that. So we'll have some of that out there as well. Gentlemen, have anything else on the boys' power ranking? Are we ready to get going into the girls' power ranking?
Yep, let's get into the girls. All right. So Northwood. So starting with the girls' scores from last week and from last night. So Northwood suffered their first loss of the season, losing to Southeast Alamance 43-33. I mean, not their first loss, their third loss of the season against Southeast Alamance 43-33. And then they responded with a 61-18 win over Jordan Matthews that Friday. And then Seaforth, they were once again keep on rolling with 3 wins during the week. They beat Graham 63-15, Southeast Alamance 44-29, and Cummings 64-15. And then Jordan Matthews, they suffered back-to-back losses, losing to Graham on January 24th, 33-47, after losing to Seaforth. And then Chatham Central, they won a tight one over Bartley Yancey, 48-45 that Friday. And then Chatham Charter, they also continuing to roll, just like Seaforth, down, but at the 1A level. They beat Ascend Leadership 75-16 on the 23rd. And then they followed that with a 65-30 win over Triangle Math and Science on the 24th. And then Woods Charter, they broke a 6-game losing streak with a 36-10 win over Southern Wake Academy on the 23rd, but they lost to River Mill 29-37 that Friday. And then last night, C4 picked up another big win over Chatham Central, 63-24. Northwood took care of Bartley Yancey, 57-18. Jordan Matthews won a tight one over Northmore, 47-45. And Chatham Charter beat Woods Charter 77-38. And my girls' power rankings from last week. Number 1, I got Seaforth, of course. Number 2, Northwood. Number 3, Chatham Charter. And then at 4, we got Chatham Central. 5, Jordan Matthews. And 6, Woods Charter. So, last couple of weeks, we haven't seen a lot of movement with the girls' teams because we kind of got a pretty good idea of where the girls stand. Really looking forward to the Seaforth and Northwood game, of course, because we know Northwood played them tight the first time, where Seaforth had to pull away at the end. So interested to see what Northwood can do on Seaforth's court. But Chatham Charter, like we've always been talking about Coach Patterson, their team, they've just been rolling through the Central Tar Heel 1A conference, and I really expect them to make a deep run with the girls side of the state playoffs as well down in 1A. So, Coach Barry, what do you think of the girls' power rankings, and what did you see from girls' basketball last week here in Chatham County?
Yeah, I definitely agree with this 100%. I think Seaforth's 1, Northwood's 2. I'm going to go ahead and put Chatham Charter there because I think just knowing Coach Patterson and knowing the players that they got, I think they would have an edge over Chatham Central as well as Jordan Matthews. And we know that they already beat Woods Charter a couple times. No issues there whatsoever. I definitely think Seaforth is definitely at the top. Northwood has an opportunity to avenge, the loss that occurred against them earlier in the season. So I'm sure they're looking forward to playing Seaforth this week. And if they can beat Seaforth this week, then it shakes it up a little bit. Because essentially what happens is whoever won last is going to be the guy that's going to be at the top of the power ranking. So that's going to be a really big game. And for all intent and purposes, if Seaforth wins that game, they would have essentially won the conference because they would have beat them twice. And even if they ended up losing to Southeast Alamance, they would still have more victories in conference than anybody else, assuming we beat or Seaford beats Bartlett Yancey and a few of the other teams that we haven't yet played, like Northmore, which I think is going to happen. So this is a big game for everybody involved. The other thing that I'll point out is this: the way it looks is this. We know Seaforth, Northwood, and Southeast Alamance, conference-wise, they're going to be the top three in the conference. The key thing is this: you want to try to stay out of that 2-3 slot if you're one of those three teams, because what's likely to happen in the conference tournament is after the first round, the second round is going to be 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. So if you second and third, you're going to have to play each other again, and then you're going to have to still play whoever the top seed is. So let's just say Northwood and Southeast Alamance end up in that 2-3 spot. They probably are going to have to play each other again in the conference tournament. Then the winner of that is going to have to go up and play Seaforth. So they're going to have to play both of those teams, for the third time going into the conference. Whereas still, if you're the top slot, you only have to play one of those particular teams. So yes, this game on Friday is absolutely huge for everybody involved. For Northwood, this puts them in a position where they can potentially steal that number 1 seed. For Seaforth, they put them in a position where they can clinch it. So this is a really, really big game. And for those of you who love great basketball, particularly local, you can't miss this game on Friday. It is going to be a barn burner, must-see TV. Can't wait. 6:30, Seaford High School. The Seaford girls versus the Northwood girls. It should be a great game.
Yeah, I think Coach Berry, you make a good point. I know I made fun of you the last time when you talked about C4 playing Northwood, but they had to turn people away from that game. So it's very likely they're going to have to do the same thing. So, folks, you need to get there early. And as Coach Berry said, it's a quad, so they start with the girls and boys JV games.
One other thing that I'm doing is I'm actually going to put a message out to my youth kids, my youth organization, which is about 3,000 families. And I'm going to tell them about this particular game. So it is no doubt in my mind that this game is going to sell out, because you're going to basically get everybody from Northwood. It's only 8 miles up the road. So everybody from Northwood is coming. Everybody from Seaford is coming. Then you throw in, I'm sending to my list of 3,000. Even if you get 1% or 2% of them, the numbers are going to be huge. So you look at another 30 to 60 just from that alone. So it's going to be a big game, guys. I can't wait. And let's see what happens. And as far as the boys, yes, like I said before, the boys just got to go in there, man. Just let it all hang out. Whatever happens, happens. Just know that you did the very best that you can do.
Yeah, I imagine the Seaford boys will play hard against Northwood. Like they've been playing hard the past couple of games. It's just been falling short. But as far as the girls' game, I'm really excited to see once again that matchup between Skylar and Gabby. We know Skylar last time was making those long shots. She can hit the three. She can hit the mid range. And we know both teams are really, really good teams defensively and like to hustle to the ball. So I feel like it's going to be another one of those kind of low scoring, tit for tat games. Maybe one team pulls away at the end. We'll see. But I do think C4 did do themselves a favor by winning the first one at Northwood. I think winning on Northwood's floor when they had home court advantage. We know how loud Northwood's gym could get with the nut house in the student section there. But doing it, having that advantage going home. They just got the logo on the court. I know their fans are going to be up for that one because the girls team has been doing so well this season. I think Seaford. If I had a prediction, I would predict Seaford to get this one, but I still think it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, it's it's going to come down to who executes better. Who executes better? I do think Northwood, the one thing that I admire about the Northwood girls team is they play hard, they're physical, they're gritty, they're competitive, they have a real desire to win. And to be quite frank with you, they've been here before. I mean, if you go back 2-3 years ago when they won the state title, so you have a couple of girls that was on that team that's still here. So they have a championship mindset. And that by itself makes them very, very dangerous. And on any given day, they can beat anybody. On the flip side, you have the Seaford girls, where they're trying to get something that Northwood has already accomplished 3 years ago. They have yet to, reach that ultimate goal of winning a state title. So there's a hunger from the girls, not just the girls players, but the coaches and the general Seaford community. So when you have these clashes of desires and mentalities that get together, it just makes for a fascinating game. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to who executes. Because as I mentioned, Northwood is going to play hard. They have all those great attributes. I also believe that Seaforth is going to come and play just as hard. So when that happens, they cancel each other out. And when they cancel each other out, then it comes down to who executes better, who makes the least amount of mistakes, who makes the shot they're supposed to make, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's ultimately going to determine the winner of that game.
The other thing I was going to add is I just saw this posted on Facebook from the Booster Club at Seaforth. They're doing a similar thing to what Northwood's doing, where all of their students get in for free on Friday. So if you don't think that place is going to be jam-packed, you're just not reading the crowd. So it's going to be crazy.
Yes, I can't wait. It's and that's one I believe me and Gene we're going to color commentate that one. It's going to be good. Like I said, it's going to be must see TV.
Yeah, let me add to that too, folks. I'm going to pop up. Asheebo's got a Twitter account, and you need to be following it. I'll tell you why. Because he's putting up stuff when he's out there at games, and he's putting up images, videos, and also updates and scores. So right there, Asheebo R38. The other thing I want to let you folks know is that Coach Berry, on certain games, I video all the games. It's not the best video work because I'm also taking pictures, but he's also doing commentary during those games, and we're putting those up onto the YouTube channel. So you have an opportunity. I know you see guys up in the stands holding their camera, but you know what? They're not saying much. If you want to follow along, you got Asheebo, especially this coming Friday. You can have Asheebo on Twitter, and then Coach Berry after the game, when I'll probably get it posted by Saturday, you can watch the game and listen to his commentary, which brings a lot of the information you're hearing right now on this live stream is what you'll hear on Coach Berry's commentary. And if you're not able to make it into, if you're one of those people who didn't get to go into the gym, follow Asheebo and follow him on Twitter. And even if you have the live stream video deal, you know what? You still want to follow Asheebo. So I'm going to post that again, where you can see what his Twitter account or Twitter X account, whatever they're calling this thing, Asheebo R38. So go ahead and make sure to follow him. We haven't had anything like this in the county before. I appreciate what Shebo's doing, the fact that he's out there and feeding you live information. So even if you can't make it to the game, he's letting you know what's going on. And then he also does post-game interviews that with players and coaches that he also posts on his Twitter account. And then, of course, every Wednesday when the Chatham News and Record comes out, he's got loads of information on there as well. Plus the folks that are watching here, all you player moms, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Asheebo, what else do we need to say? Oh, I think all three of us are going to be at the game on Friday. And Asheebo, you're doing wrestling tomorrow, right?
Tonight.
Today.
Yes, Seaforth is at Bunn. They got Southwest Onslow first. Coach Barry, he commentated the first two rounds on Saturday. Coach Barry, you got any predictions for how Seaforth Wrestling is going to do today based on what you saw?
Yeah, I think they're going to be a tough out. You got Josh Miller, Lance. You got Lance. I mean, listen. I'm expecting big things out of those guys. I got a chance to talk to Coach Armstrong, and he's like, Coach, listen, if our guys come focused, we have a real chance. And one thing that I loved about what's going on here is they have a set strategy. It's a certain takedown that they're looking for. It's a certain tilt. It's a certain pin. It's like the same thing being repeated over and over and over. These guys are completely bought into what Coach Armstrong wants them to do. So yes, I'm looking forward to the matches tonight because I too will be there. And with Asheebo, if we can, we're going to go and color commentate that as well. And we're going to root those guys on. Hopefully we get through this round, get to the fourth round. We do the same thing. We can ultimately, make the states. But I am definitely eager and optimistic and fired up to see the wrestling team do the things that they're currently doing right now. The great thing that I saw on Saturday was, I saw Josh Miller, and I see him walk around the hall sometime at Seaforth, and just real humble to himself. Don't really say much to at least the adults. And then I saw he was about to come up to wrestle. He's like smacking himself in the head. He's getting ready. He looked real serious. Man, he went out there and just completely just went through this kid, pinned him in 30, 45 seconds. I mean, and after the match was over, I went over to him and I said, man, you my type of guy. And the reason why I have this affinity, for those of you who don't know, is I'm a wrestler. I'm a wrestler as well. In high school, I wrestled 102, wrestled for 3 years in high school, and also wrestled my first year in college at Howard University. So I understand wrestling, and at the same time, I'm a practicing jiu-jitsu practitioner where I train 3-4 times a week. So I'm very adept to wrestling and grappling. And so for me to go to the games and to the matches, it's sort of part of who I am. So it's an honor for me to call the wrestling matches with the local community, with the kids that I see, with the coach that I know, with the community that I love. So I'm looking forward to definitely going to Bunn tonight and commentating their matches as well, showing them some love. That, hey, we appreciate you, we see you, and we want you to do the best you can be, and we're going to applaud you every step of the way.
All right, folks, I think we're about ready to wrap it up. It's 12:48. Thank you for listening. We should be back here next Wednesday at noontime. Sure, we're going to be talking more about basketball and more about wrestling, and spring sports are going to be kicking off soon as well. I know there's notices out there for kids to try out and start practicing. I know Coach Johnson, even though it's not a spring sport, he's getting ready for the football season in Northwood, and Coach Gary at Seaforth, and actually all the football coaches at all the teams here in the county are getting ready for it. So a lot coming up. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next Wednesday. Asheebo, thank you very much. Coach Barry, thank you very much. And we'll see everybody next Wednesday.